He handed me a credit card at dinner in front of 40 people and told me it was declined. But here's what he didn't know. I put it there. My name is Naomi, and for 6 years I was the invisible woman standing next to the most admired man in the room. The woman who planned his parties, raised his children, supported his dreams, and smiled through every single moment he chose to make me feel small. Marcus was what people called self-made, a real estate developer who built his empire from a single apartment complex and turned it into a dynasty worth millions. Every room he walked into, the air shifted. Men straightened their ties. Women smiled a little wider, and I was just his wife, not his partner, not his equal, his wife. The kind of title that sounds like a crown, but sometimes feels like a leash. I remember the first time I noticed the shift. We were at his company's anniversary gala, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, people dressed like they were born into wealth. Marcus was radiant, laughing, commanding, and somewhere between the champagne and the applause, a colleague leaned over to him and said, "Marcus, your assistant is stunning tonight." And Marcus smiled. He didn't say, "That's my wife." He just smiled. I told myself it was a mistake, a slip. The noise was loud. Maybe he didn't hear. But the truth is, I heard it. Every word. And I felt something inside me, something quiet and warm, begin to go cold. But I stayed. Because I loved him. Because we had Lily and Jordan. Because I believed that the man I married was still somewhere underneath all that pride and polish. That belief almost destroyed me. The humiliation didn't happen all at once. It was slow. A comment here. A dismissal there. Naomi doesn't really understand business. She's better with the kids. Don't worry about her, she's fine. Fine, that word. That word, as if I were furniture, as if my silence meant I had nothing to say. And then came the dinner that changed everything. His business partners, their wives, a restaurant that cost more per plate than most people's weekly grocery bill. And Marcus, my husband, the man I had stood beside for 6 years, looked across that candlelit table, raised his glass, and said with a laugh that the whole table could hear, "Naomi's card got declined at the spa last week. I had to send my assistant to cover it." Can you imagine? The table laughed. I did not. Because in that moment, something inside me didn't break. It woke up. I drove home that night in silence. Marcus talked the entire way about deals, about dinners, about how well the evening went. He never once asked how I felt. He never once looked at me. And that was the night I stopped waiting to be seen. What Marcus didn't know, what he had never bothered to find out, was that before I became his wife, I was a financial analyst. Sharp, strategic, and fluent in numbers the way some people are fluent in languages. I had quietly managed the household accounts for years, not because he asked me to, because someone had to, and because I was good at it, very good. It was also how I discovered the account he thought I didn't know about. A secondary account, opened 3 years into our marriage. Modest at first, small transfers, nothing suspicious. But over time, the deposits grew, and the name attached to the transactions, his assistant. Priya. I didn't cry when I found it. I think I was past the stage of crying. What I felt instead was something much quieter, much colder, and much more focused. Clarity. I called my sister that night. She's a family attorney. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream or throw things or beg for answers. Because I had learned something that women like me learn eventually. Anger is loud. Strategy is quiet. And quiet wins. Over the next 3 months, I documented everything. Every transfer, every dinner receipt, every text message backed up to a cloud account he didn't know I could access. I worked in the early mornings while the house was still asleep, and I smiled across the breakfast table like nothing had changed. Marcus thought my silence was submission. It was preparation. My sister filed the paperwork quietly. Asset disclosures, hidden accounts, the secondary property in his name that he'd purchased 18 months ago, a condo downtown that I had certainly never been invited to see. But the moment that truly shattered me, the moment that moved me from strategy back to grief, was the afternoon I picked up Jordan from school, and he said, so casually, so innocently, "Dad took us to his other house last weekend. It's really nice. Priya made us pancakes. My son, my 8-year-old son, had been inside the life Marcus had built without me. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes. I didn't move. I just breathed. And then I drove home, made dinner, and helped Jordan with his homework, because falling apart was something I would do later, in private, on my own time, not now. Now I had work to do. The dinner was Marcus's idea. He wanted to celebrate closing his biggest deal of the year. Same restaurant, same partners, same ritual of performance and polish. He even picked out what he thought I should wear. I smiled. I agreed. I wore exactly what I chose. And just before dessert was served, as Marcus raised his glass to toast himself, once again my phone buzzed. His partner's phones buzzed. His attorney's phone buzzed, because my attorney had just sent the filing notification, the divorce petition, the asset freeze, the documentation of every hidden transfer, every concealed account, every piece of property purchased without my knowledge, all of it, submitted to the court. In real time, at his celebration dinner, the color drained from Marcus's face in a way I had never seen before. Not embarrassment, not anger. Fear, real, unfiltered fear. The same kind of fear he had never once considered I might feel, standing at that table months ago while he made the room laugh at my expense. One of his partners leaned over quietly and said, "Marcus, is everything all right?" And Marcus, for perhaps the first time in his life, had nothing to say. I set my napkin on the table. I picked up my bag. And I looked at my husband, this man who had handed me a declined card as a punchline, who had built a second life while I ran his first one, and I said, simply and softly, "I hope it was worth it." And I walked out. The settlement gave me the house, primary custody of Lily and Jordan, and a financial outcome that more than reflected 6 years of invisible labor. Marcus tried to fight it, but documentation doesn't lie, and strategy, as it turns out, is worth more than performance. I heard through a mutual friend that Priya left him 4 months later. I wasn't surprised. People ask me sometimes if I'm bitter, if I regret staying as long as I did, if the revenge was worth it. And I always say the same thing: it wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. I didn't destroy Marcus to hurt him. I simply stopped letting him destroy me. The most powerful thing I ever did wasn't the filing, or the dinner, or the look on his face. It was the morning after, when I woke up in my own house, made coffee in my own kitchen, and for the first time in 6 years, I felt like myself. Some people will take everything from you: your confidence, your voice, your sense of worth, and call it love. Don't let them. Know your value before someone else decides it for you. Because the moment you stop shrinking to fit their world, you remember just how much space you were always meant to take up.